I'm 33, M, and my wife is 36, F. Over the summer, I noticed my wife was extremely stressed from her job. She had recently been promoted and had taken on a lot more responsibilities. I didn't take it too personally when she would come home stressed or wake up in a grumpy mood. I understood she was under a lot of pressure. She worked the graveyard shift and her sleep was never enough. Plus, she picked up extra hours to help her boss out. We got into some pretty harsh fights during that time, with her often being the instigator. I couldn't understand why she was blowing up on me and chalked it up to stress. This is when I suspect she started to become acquainted with a coworker of hers. Come October, my wife was working nonstop. I noticed she was putting way more effort into her appearance before going into work. I figured she was changing her style to better suit her new position. But this was when I think she decided to physically cheat with this other guy. We were barely spending any time together, and she seemed severely disinterested in anything I was doing. She became a lot more withdrawn from me. She used to tell me about everything going on at her job, but not anymore. Barely a conversation. She would literally just go to work, come home, sleep, and repeat. One night, after we came home from touring a potential school for her daughter, we got into another argument. She never communicated to me that she was going into work that night, and I was looking forward to spending time together. After the argument, I felt something was off, and straight up asked her if there was anyone else. She vehemently denied it, calling me crazy and ridiculous. A week or two later, I picked up an AirTag and taped it under her car. Her behavior got increasingly more disrespectful and erratic, and she started hanging out with these girls against my wishes. Another fight happened, and she left the house, telling me she was calling into work. The weeks that followed were a blur of confusion and frustration. I had always trusted my wife implicitly, but her recent behavior was causing me to second-guess everything. Her dismissive attitude, her constant absences, and her newfound interest in her appearance, all of it was gnawing at me. I felt like I was living with a stranger. My mind was a whirlwind of doubts and suspicions, but I had no concrete proof of anything. It was driving me crazy. One night, after another one of our explosive arguments, I was at my wit's end. She had stormed out of the house, claiming she was going into work again. I watched her leave, feeling a mix of anger and despair. The idea of using an AirTag to track her movements had been sitting in the back of my mind for a while, and in that moment, my desperation overpowered my hesitation. I decided to act. The next day, while she was in the shower, I took one of the AirTags I had bought under the pretense of keeping track of my keys and discreetly taped it under her car. It felt wrong, invasive even, but I needed answers. I couldn't go on with this gnawing suspicion eating away at me. For the first few days, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. She went to work, came back home, and followed her usual routine of showering, sleeping, and occasionally engaging in strained conversations. I was beginning to think I was losing my mind, that maybe the stress of our situation was making me paranoid. But then, one evening, everything changed. She had told me she was going out with some girlfriends. Despite my objections, she left, brushing off my concerns with a wave of her hand. I waited until she was out of sight and then checked the AirTag's location on my phone. It showed her car parked at a residential address that I didn't recognize. My heart started pounding. This wasn't a restaurant or a bar, it was a house. I decided to drive by the address, my mind racing with possibilities. As I approached, I saw her car parked in the driveway of a modest apartment complex. My hands were shaking, and I felt sick to my stomach. Who lived here? What was she doing? I parked a few blocks away and walked back to the building. The lights were on, and I could see shadows moving behind the curtains. I stood there for what felt like hours, my mind spinning with anxiety and dread. Finally, I saw her silhouette through the window. She was with someone, a man. They were talking, laughing even, and then I saw them kiss. My heart shattered into a million pieces. I stumbled back to my car, barely able to breathe. I had seen enough. I drove home in a daze, my mind replaying the scene over and over again. How could she do this? How could she betray me like this? That night, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. My mind was a storm of emotions, anger, betrayal, heartbreak, and disbelief. The woman I had loved for over a decade, the mother of my children, was cheating on me. The reality of it was almost too much to bear. The next morning I confronted her. She walked through the door, looking tired but satisfied. I could barely contain my rage. "Where were you last night?" I demanded, my voice trembling. "I told you I was out with the girls," she replied nonchalantly, not meeting my eyes. "Don't lie to me," I snapped. "I know where you were. I saw you." Her face went pale, and for a moment she looked genuinely frightened, but then her expression hardened. "You followed me?" she asked, her voice dripping with disdain. "I had to know," I said, my voice breaking. "I had to know the truth. How long has this been going on?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she sat down at the kitchen table, her head in her hands. "A few months," she admitted finally. "We started talking at work and it just happened. I didn't mean for it to go this far." "Didn't mean for it to go this far?" I repeated, incredulous. "You've been lying to me, sneaking around and cheating. How could you?" She looked up at me, tears in her eyes. "I felt so alone," she said quietly. "You were always working, always busy. I needed someone to talk to, someone who understood. He was there for me when you weren't." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I had been working hard, it's true, but it was for our family, for her. "I was doing it for us," I said, my voice raw with emotion. "I was trying to build a better life for us, for our kids." "I know," she whispered, "but it didn't feel that way. It felt like you were drifting further and further away. And he was there." We sat in silence for a long time, the weight of her betrayal hanging heavy in the air. Finally, I stood up. "I can't do this," I said. "I can't be with someone who doesn't respect me enough to be honest." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I understand." That night, I packed a bag and left. I couldn't stay in the house where everything reminded me of her and the life we had built together. I needed space to think, to process what had happened. As I drove away, I felt a strange sense of relief. The truth was out, and though it was painful, it was also liberating. I didn't have to live in the shadow of suspicion anymore. I could start to heal, to rebuild my life. We tried everything: therapy, me pouring my heart out, conversation after conversation. Months later, she was still in communication with him. "It's pretty much a done deal with us. I'm legitimately traumatized by the betrayal and deception. It's hard to fathom how someone you would take a bullet for can just rip your heart out like that." The night I confirmed my worst fears felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's life fall apart. My heart pounded as I watched the little dot on the AirTag app move across town to an unfamiliar address. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. She wasn't at work. She was with him. Unable to stay home, I drove to the address, parking a few houses down. I sat there for what felt like hours, my mind racing with a torrent of emotions: anger, sadness, confusion. When her car finally pulled up to the house, I saw her get out, adjusting her clothes and smoothing her hair. She looked happy, carefree. I felt a wave of nausea. The confrontation that night was explosive. When she returned home, I was waiting in the living room. She looked startled, then defiant. "Where were you?" I demanded, my voice trembling with a mix of fury and despair. She tried to lie, but I confronted her with the truth. The AirTag, the address, the man. Her defenses crumbled and she confessed. She had been seeing him for months, a coworker she felt understood her in ways I supposedly never could. Her excuses felt hollow. She needed attention. She felt neglected. She found solace in his company. Each word cut deeper than the last. The kids woke up to our shouting, and seeing their frightened faces broke me. We tried to calm down for their sake, but the damage was done. She slept in the guest room that night, and I lay in our bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering how we had reached this point. In the days that followed, the house was filled with a tense silence. We tried therapy again, but each session felt like a futile attempt to mend something irreparably broken. She continued to see him, despite promising to cut ties. Each lie and broken promise drove another wedge between us. I started documenting everything, every lie, every inconsistency. It wasn't just for a potential divorce, it was for my sanity. I needed to understand where it all went wrong, to make sense of the chaos my life had become. My friends and family were supportive, but their pity was unbearable. I could see the judgment in their eyes, the silent question, "How could you let this happen?" I began to isolate myself, spending hours at work or taking long drives just to clear my head. The final straw came when she missed our son's soccer game to be with him. Seeing the disappointment on his face was too much. I knew then that I had to end it, for my sake and for the kids. Living in this toxic environment was doing more harm than good. Filing for divorce was a painful but necessary step. When I told her, she looked relieved, as if she had been waiting for me to make the first move. We agreed to split custody of the kids, trying to keep things as amicable as possible for their sake. Moving out was bittersweet. I packed up my things, leaving behind a house filled with memories of happier times. The kids took it hard, but I promised them that we would make new, better memories together. In the end, facing the truth was the only way to start healing. It was a long, painful journey, but it marked the beginning of a new chapter. One where I could finally find peace and rebuild my life. Life after the divorce was an immense challenge, a landscape I had never imagined traversing. The first few months were a whirlwind of emotions and adjustments. I had to learn to navigate the new normal as a single parent, juggling work, household responsibilities, and ensuring my kids felt loved and secure despite the chaos. My mornings started early. I'd wake up before dawn to get some quiet time to myself, sipping coffee while staring at the walls that once echoed with the laughter of a complete family. The emptiness was palpable, but I used this time to gather my thoughts and plan for the day ahead. I would wake the kids, make breakfast, and prepare them for school, all while trying to maintain a semblance of normalcy. It was a delicate balancing act, but it was necessary. Work became my sanctuary, a place where I could focus on something other than my broken marriage. I threw myself into my projects, taking on new challenges and responsibilities. My colleagues noticed the change in my demeanor, and some offered their support, while others kept a respectful distance. My boss was understanding, allowing me some flexibility to manage my new home life. Despite my best efforts, there were times when the weight of it all felt unbearable. Nights were the hardest. After putting the kids to bed, the silence would creep in, bringing with it a flood of memories and regrets. I missed the companionship, the late-night talks, and even the mundane routines we shared. It was during these quiet hours that the betrayal hit hardest, and the loneliness felt suffocating. One of the few constants in my life was therapy. I had initially been skeptical about it, but as the sessions progressed, I found them incredibly cathartic. My therapist helped me unpack the myriad of emotions swirling inside me. Anger, hurt, and confusion were laid bare, and I began to understand that healing was a process, not a destination. She encouraged me to express my feelings openly, to allow myself to grieve, and to be patient with myself. Through therapy, I started to see the importance of self-care. I realized that in taking care of my children and throwing myself into work, I had neglected my own needs. I began to carve out time for activities that brought me joy. I reconnected with old hobbies, photography, hiking, and reading. These small pleasures provided a much-needed respite from the daily grind and helped me rediscover parts of myself that had been overshadowed by the turmoil. Support from friends and family was crucial. My parents were a godsend, often stepping in to help with the kids or just being there to listen. My friends rallied around me, offering words of encouragement and sometimes just a shoulder to cry on. They reminded me that it was okay to lean on others, that I didn't have to face this alone. I also found solace in online communities. Reading about others who had gone through similar experiences provided a sense of camaraderie. Their stories of heartbreak and recovery mirrored my own, and their resilience inspired me to keep pushing forward. I began sharing my journey on social media, and the outpouring of support from strangers was overwhelming. Their messages of hope and understanding were a beacon of light in my darkest moments. As the months passed, I noticed subtle changes in myself. The pain was still there, but it no longer consumed me. I started to find joy in small things. My children's laughter, a beautiful sunset, a kind gesture from a friend. These moments of happiness were like tiny sparks, gradually reigniting the flame of my spirit. My relationship with my kids grew stronger. They were my rock, and I was theirs. We created new routines and traditions, filling our days with love and laughter. I made it a point to be present for them, to listen to their fears and reassure them that, no matter what, we would be okay. Their resilience amazed me, and their unconditional love was a constant reminder of why I needed to keep moving forward. One pivotal moment in my journey was when I decided to take a solo trip. I needed time away from everything familiar to gain perspective and clarity. I chose a quiet cabin in the mountains, a place where I could disconnect from the world and reconnect with myself. The solitude was both daunting and liberating. I spent my days hiking, meditating, and reflecting on my past and future. The beauty of nature was healing, and by the end of the trip, I felt a renewed sense of purpose and strength. Upon returning home, I was ready to embrace the next chapter of my life. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was no longer afraid. I had faced my darkest fears and emerged stronger. The road ahead was still uncertain, but I was equipped with the tools and the support system to navigate it. I also made a conscious decision to focus on personal growth. I enrolled in courses to further my career and took up new hobbies that challenged me. Learning became a form of therapy, a way to rebuild my confidence and expand my horizons. I started practicing mindfulness and meditation, techniques I had picked up during my solo trip, which helped me stay grounded and present. The transformation wasn't just internal. I began to see changes in my external world as well. My career flourished as I took on new responsibilities and projects. I was more present with my children, creating lasting memories and building a strong, loving foundation for them. My friendships deepened as I opened up more and allowed myself to be vulnerable. Eventually, I felt ready to open myself up to the possibility of love again. It was a scary step, filled with uncertainties and fears of repeating past mistakes. But I took it slowly, cautiously dipping my toes back into the dating world. I met someone who understood my past and accepted me for who I was. We built a relationship based on trust and mutual respect, and for the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful about the future. Over time, the raw wound of betrayal began to scar over, and I found myself on a path toward healing. It wasn't a straight line. It had twists and turns, setbacks and breakthroughs. But each step forward, no matter how small, was a victory. In the early stages of healing, I struggled with intense emotions, anger, sadness, confusion. These feelings would hit me at random moments, making it hard to focus or find joy in anything. But therapy continued to be my anchor. My therapist introduced me to mindfulness practices, which became a cornerstone of my recovery. By learning to be present, I was able to slowly detach from the overwhelming grip of my past. One of the most significant steps I took was to rebuild my social life. Initially, it was hard to be around people, especially couples, as it reminded me of what I had lost. But isolating myself wasn't the answer. I reconnected with old friends and made an effort to meet new people. I joined local clubs and groups that interested me: photography clubs, hiking groups, and even a book club. These activities not only distracted me, but also brought new joy and connections into my life. Another critical aspect of my healing was focusing on my physical health. I had neglected my body during the most stressful times of my marriage and its subsequent breakdown. I started going to the gym regularly, which became a therapeutic outlet for my pent-up emotions. Exercise released endorphins, helping to lift my mood and give me a sense of control. I also began to eat healthier, realizing that nurturing my body was a form of self-love. One unexpected but profound element of my healing journey was reconnecting with my passions. Before the marriage turmoil, I loved photography. Capturing moments through the lens of a camera was something that always brought me peace. I dusted off my old camera and began taking photos again. Nature photography became a favorite, and I would spend weekends exploring parks and nature reserves, finding beauty in the world around me. These moments behind the lens allowed me to see the world and my life from a new perspective. Parenting also took on a new dimension. My kids were my top priority, and I wanted to ensure they felt stable and loved despite the upheaval in our lives. We created new traditions: Saturday morning pancake breakfasts, Sunday afternoon movie marathons, and spontaneous midweek game nights. These routines provided a sense of normalcy and security for them and helped us bond in new and meaningful ways. I became more involved in their school activities, attended parent-teacher meetings, and cheered them on at their sports events. Their resilience inspired me, and their laughter became a healing balm for my soul. In addition to therapy, I explored other forms of emotional healing. I attended a support group for people who had experienced infidelity. Hearing other stories and sharing my own in a safe, supportive environment was incredibly validating. It made me feel less alone and offered insights into my own healing process. I also began journaling, pouring my thoughts and feelings onto paper. This practice helped me process my emotions and track my progress over time. Books became another source of comfort and wisdom. I read extensively about relationships, personal growth, and resilience. Authors who had faced and overcome their own challenges became my mentors from afar. Their words resonated with me and provided guidance on my path to recovery. One book, in particular, Rising Strong by Brené C. Brown, had a profound impact on me. Her insights on vulnerability, courage, and resilience spoke directly to my experience and helped me frame my journey in a more positive light. As my confidence grew, I decided to take a bold step. I enrolled in a course that had always interested me, graphic design. Learning something new was invigorating. It challenged me intellectually and creatively and provided a fresh start in many ways. The course introduced me to a new community of people who shared my interests, further expanding my social circle and support network. Traveling was another form of healing. My solo trip to the mountains had been transformative, so I decided to continue exploring new places. I took trips whenever I could, sometimes with my kids, sometimes alone. Each journey was an adventure and a step toward reclaiming my independence. Whether it was a weekend getaway to a nearby city or a week-long vacation to a beachside town, these trips allowed me to experience new cultures, meet new people, and find solace in the beauty of the world. Forgiveness played a critical role in my healing process. It wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight. I had to work through my anger and pain, but eventually I reached a point where I could let go of the bitterness. Forgiving my ex-wife didn't mean condoning her actions, but it freed me from the burden of resentment. I also had to forgive myself for the times I felt I had failed, for the guilt I carried about the end of our marriage. This self-forgiveness was crucial for my peace of mind. As time passed, I began reflecting on my journey, finding clarity and peace in the process. The heartbreak that once consumed me had transformed into a profound appreciation for the strength I had discovered within myself. One of the most significant moments of reflection came during a solo trip to a secluded beach, where I spent hours watching the waves crash against the shore. The vastness of the ocean reminded me of life's endless possibilities and the resilience I had cultivated. It was here that I realized how far I had come and how much potential the future held. Back home, I found joy in photography, capturing everyday moments that showcased the beauty of life. My passion led to a local gallery exhibition, where I shared my journey through the lens of my camera. The positive feedback and connections I made were incredibly rewarding. My relationship with my children deepened as we navigated this new chapter together. We established new traditions and adventures, strengthening our bond and creating a supportive family dynamic. I focused on being present for them, ensuring they felt loved and secure. Professionally, my graphic design business flourished. I took on ambitious projects, expanded my client base, and even started mentoring young designers. Giving back to the community that had supported me was deeply fulfilling, and I found great satisfaction in helping others achieve their dreams. Forgiveness was a crucial part of my healing process. Letting go of anger and resentment towards my ex-wife freed me from the past, allowing me to move forward with a lighter heart. I also learned to forgive myself, understanding that I had done my best given the circumstances. As the dust settled from the chaos of the past, I found myself standing at the threshold of a new beginning. It wasn't just about leaving my old life behind. It was about embracing the unknown with a renewed sense of purpose and hope. The journey of healing had transformed me, and I was ready to embark on the next chapter with an open heart and mind. One of the first steps in this new beginning was creating a stable and nurturing environment for my children. I moved into a cozy house in a friendly neighborhood. The house was modest but warm, filled with natural light and the sounds of laughter and love. It was a place where my kids could feel safe and grow, a place where we could build new memories together. We set about making the house our own. The kids helped choose the paint colors for their rooms, and we spent weekends decorating and arranging furniture. It was a bonding experience that brought us closer together. The walls soon bore the marks of our creativity: hand-painted murals, family photos, and artwork by the kids. Each piece told a story. Each room held memories of our shared journey. I also wanted to create new traditions that would become the fabric of our lives. Every Friday night became family night, a time dedicated to being together without distractions. We'd cook dinner together, often trying out new recipes, and then settle in for a movie or game night. These evenings became the highlight of our week, a time to reconnect and enjoy each other's company. Our weekends were filled with adventures. We explored local parks, went on hiking trips, and visited museums and cultural events. I wanted my children to experience the world's beauty and diversity, to see that life is full of possibilities. These outings not only enriched their lives, but also strengthened our bond as a family. We laughed, we learned, and we grew together. In parallel to building a new home life, I focused on advancing my career. The graphic design course I had enrolled in became a significant turning point. I immersed myself in the coursework, soaking up knowledge and honing my skills. The creative process was invigorating, and I found myself lost in the world of colors, shapes, and designs. It was a form of therapy, a way to express myself and channel my emotions into something beautiful. As my skills grew, so did my confidence. I began taking on freelance projects, designing logos, websites, and marketing materials for small businesses. Each project was a learning experience, and with each successful completion, my reputation as a reliable and talented designer spread. I built a portfolio that showcased my work and began attracting more clients. Eventually, I decided to take a bold step and start my own graphic design business. It was a leap of faith, but I felt ready. I rented a small office space in a bustling part of town and set up shop. The office was a reflection of my personality, bright, modern, and filled with inspiring art. I hired a small team of passionate designers who shared my vision, and together, we built a business that thrived on creativity and innovation. Running my own business was challenging, but incredibly rewarding. It gave me a sense of control and accomplishment, and it allowed me to balance work with my responsibilities as a parent. I set my own hours, making sure I was there for school pickups, soccer games, and parent-teacher meetings. My kids saw the effort I was putting into both my work and their lives, and it taught them the value of hard work and perseverance. Outside of work and family, I made a conscious effort to cultivate my social life. The loneliness that had once threatened to engulf me was gradually replaced by a vibrant network of friends and acquaintances. I joined local clubs and attended community events, putting myself out there in ways I hadn't before. I reconnected with old friends and made new ones, each relationship adding a layer of richness to my life. One of the most significant new friendships I formed was with a woman named Emma. We met at a local book club, and our shared love for literature sparked an immediate connection. Emma was intelligent, kind, and had a warmth that drew people to her. We started spending more time together, attending book readings, exploring new cafes, and discussing everything from books to life's challenges. Our friendship deepened over time, and I found myself looking forward to our conversations and outings. Emma became a confidant, someone I could talk to openly about my past and my dreams for the future. She listened without judgment and offered insights that helped me see things from a new perspective. As we grew closer, I realized that my feelings for Emma were evolving into something more than friendship. It was a gradual realization, a gentle unfolding of emotions that felt natural and right. We shared so many common interests and values, and our connection was built on a foundation of mutual respect and understanding. One evening, after a particularly engaging book club meeting, we went for a walk by the river. The city lights reflected on the water, creating a magical atmosphere. We talked about our favorite books, our childhood memories, and our hopes for the future. There was a moment of silence, and then Emma looked at me with a softness in her eyes that made my heart skip a beat. "Do you ever wonder what it would be like to start over? To find love again?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I took a deep breath, feeling a mix of vulnerability and excitement. "I do," I replied, meeting her gaze. "And I think I'm ready for it, with the right person." She smiled, and in that moment, I knew that my new beginning wasn't just about rebuilding my life. It was about opening my heart to the possibility of love again. We started dating, taking things slow and savoring each moment. Our relationship blossomed, filled with laughter, deep conversations, and shared dreams. Introducing Emma to my children was a significant step, and I was nervous about how they would react. But Emma was wonderful with them, patient, kind, and genuinely interested in their lives. She joined us on our family adventures, and the kids quickly warmed up to her. They saw how happy she made me, and their acceptance was a blessing. As our relationship grew, Emma and I began to talk about the future. We both had been through our own trials and had come out stronger, and we were ready to build a life together. We moved in together, blending our lives and creating a home filled with love and laughter. It was a new chapter, one that I embraced with an open heart and a sense of gratitude for the journey that had brought me here. One of the most profound lessons I learned during this new beginning was the importance of resilience. Life had thrown me some harsh blows, but each challenge had also brought opportunities for growth and transformation. I discovered strengths I didn't know I had, and developed a deeper appreciation for the simple joys in life. My relationship with Emma was a testament to the power of love and healing. We supported each other's dreams and ambitions, celebrated each other's successes, and stood by each other during tough times. Our love was a partnership, a source of strength and inspiration that made each day brighter. Professionally, my graphic design business flourished. We landed several high-profile clients, and our work was recognized in industry publications. I took pride in mentoring young designers, helping them find their voice and navigate their careers. The success of the business allowed me to give back to the community in meaningful ways, supporting local arts programs and offering internships to students from underserved backgrounds. As time went on, I reflected on the journey that had brought me to this point. The pain and heartbreak I had experienced were undeniable, but they had also led to a profound transformation. I had rebuilt my life from the ground up, creating a future that was rich with possibilities and filled with love. The past no longer held me captive. Instead, it served as a reminder of my resilience and capacity for growth. I had learned to forgive, to let go, and to embrace the present with an open heart. The new beginning I had found was not just a fresh start. It was a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the enduring power of hope. In the years that followed, I continued to cherish the life I had built. Emma and I got married in a small, intimate ceremony surrounded by our closest friends and family. It was a day filled with joy and love, a celebration of our journey and the promise of a future together. Our blended family thrived. The kids grew up in a home where they felt loved and supported, surrounded by people who cared deeply for them. We traveled, explored new hobbies, and created countless memories that we would treasure forever. Looking back, I realized that my new beginning was not just a chapter in my life. It was a story of resilience, love, and transformation. It was a journey that had taken me from the depths of despair to the heights of happiness, showing me that even in the darkest times, there is always a glimmer of hope. Through it all, I remained grateful for the lessons learned and the people who had supported me along the way. My new beginning was a testament to the fact that life is a journey filled with unexpected twists and turns. But with resilience, love, and hope, we can navigate even the most challenging paths and find our way to a brighter future.